Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Erin Smith and I am a professional tarot reader. I also have a master's degree in counseling psychology. That's sort of why I started this channel. I was wanting to explore the intersection between tarot, Jungian psychology, and attachment theory, which I will be doing periodically. I'll be posting various talks on those different subjects and how they interact with one another. But I'm also going to be doing a week ahead reading, and this is in addition to those of you who know me from Instagram when I do a new moon and full moon reading. And so this is the first installment of that feature. So my question to Spirit, to the cards, is one of general guidance. I am going to be asking for what information, what insight or guidance would be most helpful for us to know, understand, or do in order to align with our highest good collectively. So I'm going to be doing my thing. I'm going to concentrate while I shuffle, and I will be with you momentarily. Okay, I'm just going to say a prayer over these cards. So it's an interesting answer. It looks like we are reflecting on the past in order to move forward in a good way. And we're specifically concentrating on areas of stuckness, particularly around mental narratives. So, this could be speaking to the fact that we are in a Mercury retrograde right now, which is inviting us to reconsider details, to reflect on something that may have some pattern that has already been established, and to formulate a new way of conceptualizing the way that we can move forward in a good way. So that is coming up here. So swords represent the mind, thoughts, ideas, communication. And the Five of Swords is no ground gained or lost. It's a stalemate. And so what this represents is like getting caught up in a particular narrative, sort of like a mental loop, a well-worn neurological groove that keeps pulling us back into seeing the world in one way. And typically, these kinds of obsessive narratives tend to create problematic issues in our lives, right? It's like if we're only able to see things in one way from this very narrow view, it makes it difficult to bring in new information, to attune to the perspective of someone else and see how that might be relevant to our situation. To take the bigger bird's eye view and consider a multitude of details. You can think of the Five of Swords as zeroing in, which, to be fair, there are times in life where it is important to be detail oriented, to be very narrowly focused on a specific point of concentration. In fact, what I would say is what is beneficial is to be able to move back and forth between these perspectives, to consider these narratives where they might have originated from. That's Frida. What conditions in our lives may have given us this type of perspective. How might we take a bigger view? And, in a lot of ways, this is really about considering the fact that we as human beings have a very particular experience of our own lives, and that colors our perception. And in fact, this very much speaks to attachment theory. Attachment theory tells us that the conditions in which we are raised dramatically affects the way we see ourselves and others out in the world, which certainly affects the experiences that we're going to have. So if I'm raised in an environment where I am getting my needs met, where I'm reasonably attuned to, I feel seen, I feel efficacious, that I have the ability to express a need and have that need met. And it instills in me this sense of security, which then I take out into the world. I have a kind of inherent expectation that the world is going to see me and understand me, and that I'm going to be able to make choices that will benefit me. Now, if you're someone who, for whatever reason, did not get your needs met in a good enough way, then you are carrying a very different perspective about yourself and the world. And certainly, depending on the particulars of those circumstances, it's going to manifest in a very particular narrative or perspective. It could be like, nobody sees me, nobody understands me, I'm invisible, there's no point in my even trying to attempt to make things happen out in the world. I'm going to recede within myself. It could be, if I'm not big and powerful and voracious in my expression, then I will be overlooked. And so then that becomes the driver of that behavior out in the world. So ultimately, what we are being asked to do is see where we are stuck in a mental pattern, and to consider whether or not it may be helpful for us to take a different view. And so that's where the Six of Swords comes in. The Six of Swords is leaving the past behind, moving away from troubled waters and going towards a calmer shore. And the way that we do this is through a kind of non-judgmental self-reflection. Okay, so that's what we're being asked to consider. This is a very gentle, fluid energy. So it's not being driven by a lot of emotional dysregulation. There's a kind of objectivity to it, where we can look at the conditions of our past almost from a distance and see how they've played out over time, and to really practice discernment and ask ourselves, has that been a beneficial way to move through the world? And where might I be able to let go of these old narratives? In fact, is it possible that what once was a very important way for me to navigate the world is not really serving me anymore, right? So again, going back to that kind of analogy or that example of how we learn to navigate the world in childhood based on circumstances that we have basically no control over, right? You can't really leave home at the age of 4 or 5 to go make your way out in the world. So you're sort of a captive audience, and you cultivate these behaviors or develop these behaviors that are necessary within those environments. But when we're no longer in those environments, even though it's sort of maybe a well-established habit pattern, it may not actually help us to get to where we want to go. And so that's where the Six of Swords is coming in. It's allowing us to look back at all that information, reflect on our own thinking, and let go of these limiting self-beliefs that no longer serve us, and just flow. And I would say a big part of this is about not only considering how this operates on a mental level, but also feeling our way into this kind of analysis. Cups represent love, emotions, intuition, and queens are masterful. They have a kind of maturity. They are powerful in their ability to create things out in the world. And again, this is a very heart-centered energy. The Queen of Cups feels her feelings deeply without being knocked off center by them. You can think of this card as being representative of emotional self-regulation. She has the ability to feel into what's going on and be very, very present with it and notice how that's affecting her mental talk. But she isn't captured. She isn't following every thought down the rabbit hole of despair. She's grounded in her contact with this internal view of the world, or experience, I think is probably a better word. And because she's so internally aware of her feelings and how her thoughts and feelings communicate with one another, she's also really capable of attuning to others and their emotional states out in the world, which creates a kind of relational harmony. Right? If you can't contact your own feelings and you have no affect tolerance, like it's just all too much, and so you're constantly ejecting out of your body and going up in your head and playing chess and trying to figure out how to get around the things that make you uncomfortable, if that's your kind of go-to state, it's going to be very hard then to interface with other people who are having their own emotional experience of the world. So ultimately, what this energy is telling us is that this is a really good time right now to be reflective about how all of this is occurring within ourselves, and then how we're taking that out in the world. And what is the best way for us to go after our goals and be successful in the ways that we wish to accomplish them. And that's really Chariot. Chariot is literal and figurative forward motion. And the emphasis here is on success. Having success, if you have something that you wish to accomplish and you have all of this wisdom about how you might have gone about things in the past that may not have been the most skillful approach, and you're able to let that go and trust your intuition and feel your way into it, then there is this ability to get things done in a good way. And one of the things that I really like about the Chariot is that he is driving the vehicle in the direction he wants it to go based on this kind of middle path. He's in balance. It's kind of the source of his power, that he's able to contact the darkness within himself, the depression, the despair, but he doesn't live there. He has a foot in the darkness and then also a foot in the light, or the levity, or the joy, the sense of connection. And he's, again, able to move back and forth between these spaces as needed. If you are a person who is unwilling to contact the unpleasant sensations in your own body, then it's going to be intolerable to be in the presence of somebody who is sad and maybe needs some of our comfort and soothing. But if you're also just completely overly invested in light, it's that kind of spiritual bypassing thing that gets talked about quite a bit in healing circles. You know, you're in some ways what we're talking about here is somebody who is able to have these experiences of life, the joy and the sorrow, but not get stuck in either one. It's this sort of keeping our focus on simply moving, changing, growing, pursuing goals, moving forward, and in the meantime being able to experience the full spectrum of human emotion, and then notice how that affects our thought process. And then finally, we have the Eight of Wands. Wand energy is like life force energy. It's that spark of life that causes us to be inspired and take action out in the world. And the Eight of Wands is this very fluid, fast-moving energy. It's inspiring. It's a motivator. And it's kind of effortless. When we're able to be in this flow state, then all we have to do is align with it and things fall into place. That we can ride this momentum into a place where we're creating structures, relationships, goals in our life that feel rightly aligned. So yeah, I think that this is a good week for us both to reflect, maybe let some things go and move forward in an effective way. So I hope that this is helpful. I'm happy to be bringing this to you. I will be doing a new one of these every Sunday. And please continue to tune in if this is helpful to you. Thank you. Take care.